All right, so you've determined that your cellists are ready. They're able to consistently and accurately produce the bow hold around the pencil bow with minimal tension, nice flexibility of the fingers, and they can do that no problem. And you've decided it's time for them to go ahead and take that bow hold and transfer it to the bow. You've also introduced to students where the balance point of the bow is, which is very important because that's our next step. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our bow hold, of course, now and form it around the balance point. And so what I'll tell my students to do is I'll tell them to take their bow and to purposely put it in the wrong hand. And by the way, we've talked about the bow and we've talked about how important it is that we don't touch the horsehair. So you see that they're handling it by the stick. You'll see, though, that this looks very, very strange. And even students recognize that there's something wrong about this. Not only is the bow in the left hand, the frog is up here and the tip is down there. And I say, I know, it's okay. We want it that way for now. I also want you to notice that the hair is actually pointed this way towards the bow hand. And this is important because it's going to help us set everything up. So here we go. We're going to walk through steps that by now are very familiar to students, but now we're going to apply them to the stick of the bow. With the bow in the wrong hand over here, we're going to take that right hand, we're going to flop it out just like we did for the pencil. Let the fingers dangle, right? And I can come around again like I've done before, and I'll check the flexibility of the fingers. Now what I'll have them do is I'll have them take the frog and point it towards the bow hand. This is starting to sound very, very familiar to students. It's very similar to what we did with the double bow, with the double pencil bow. So now I take those fingers, flop them out again, drape them down the side of the stick, and I purposely have it very far above the frog because what I'm doing is I'm having them find that balance point and drape it down at the balance point kind of between our long two fingers here, okay? And so now we'll recreate the process. By the way, this is a point at which a number of students might become a little bit apprehensive because if they're draping the way that we've asked them to do, they'll notice that the edges of their fingers are touching the horsehair. And if they were paying attention earlier, they will know how like it's really not a good idea to touch the horsehair, and they may be very concerned. And that's a really good chance for me as a teacher to reassure them, okay, great, you were paying attention, good for you. Now, there are going to be times when I'm going to tell you to do things that require you to make just a little bit of contact with the horsehair. That's okay, so I get the chance to reassure them. So now, here we go. They've got their fingers draped down the side, and just like what we did with the double pencil bow, we're gonna wiggle that thumb. We're gonna take that thumb, we're gonna gently rest it on the side of the stick, and by now they should be used to having that thumb roughly in between, kind of facing that space between the two long fingers here, just on the opposite side of the stick here. So that should feel very, very familiar. By the way, one of the things I want you to notice, you see me taking my left hand and pointing a lot. Students aren't doing this. When they're holding the bow this way, one of the reasons we have the bow in the wrong hand in the first place is that when they hold it here, we want them supporting with both hands the entire time. Anytime we're holding the bow horizontally and there aren't the strings right underneath it, we want to use both hands so that this hand doesn't have the strain of holding up the entire weight of the bow. So, here we are. We've gotten to the point where we're familiar with now that the thumb is wiggled, it's placed here, the knuckle is out here, and this is the bow hold.